What is up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. Joining me, as he always does, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ, we're here for the first edition of a UNC basketball show we've done in quite a while. So it's exciting times as the overlap.
We did one a few weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah. I think it's been a little bit
first one of this season, basically.
Mm-hmm.
We did one in September.
It's basically the first one of the season.
I'm already hijacking you. We're like 9 seconds into this one.
You're good, man. I was trying to think the last time we did one. I think it's been a while. And again, the overlap is, I guess you could say it's officially started with Media Day last Friday.
Trust me, it's here.
You got ACC Tipoff tomorrow in Charlotte as well. We'll be there. Make sure you guys keep it locked to TarHeelIllustrated.com for all your coverage from that event. Most of Carolina stuff starting in the morning, relatively early. So I'm sure you'll see it kind of in the first few hours of you being at work or being in the office. So something to look forward to tomorrow morning. But AJ, it's going to be a relatively short show. There's not a need to go on here and discuss the program for an hour and 40 minutes like we did last week for the UNC football show. No need to do that here on this one. But I do want to talk about a couple things. And again, we'll look ahead to the AC tip-off, very last thing tomorrow as well. But we had Media Day last Friday. Carolina's Media Day. Carolina's about 2.5 weeks into practice. Got to shoot the first 20 minutes of Carolina's practice in that one. Go check out that video on our YouTube channel. That was doing really well right now. Go check that out if you want to see that after this one. Also got to talk to every player on Friday at Media Day as well. We're not just going to sit here and rehash that because it is, unfortunately, with the way things move, a little bit of old news now with it being last Friday. But
5 days ago, it's forever, man.
I know. I really preface that by saying that's going to kind of lead into our conversation today because I just kind of want to have an organic conversation about our Tar Heels, about Carolina, and maybe our thoughts on what the team can be this year based on some of the limited access we've had. But for me, I think we talked a little bit about this on Friday, 1v1 off camera, obviously, but a very well-spoken team, a team that has a lot of experience in some ways and also has some youthful guys coming in that maybe are unknowns at what they can do at the level of Carolina, but also some really talented freshmen too. So I think there's a lot of reasons to like what we've seen from this team in terms of a group of people. We'll talk X's and O's maybe next and what we expect to see from the team based on what we saw on Friday. But I think overall, it's a roster with a lot of pieces you can like, and it's a roster that I think has a lot of potential, despite Carolina not having this 7-foot-tall center that all these fans want for whatever reason. I do think it's a roster that Carolina fans should be feeling very good about because I do think this is a team, at least on paper, that has a lot to like about it going into the new season.
Yeah, we're going to get a chance. A lot of people get a chance to see them on Saturday in the blue-white game. I will not be there for that because I've got football. The blue-white game starts 45 minutes. It starts 45 minutes after football ends, which means we'll be in the middle of MAC post-game press conference. At that time. Bryant Balcom will be there, and we have a video guy, and Kevin Roy hopefully will be there to shoot. Kevin, as most people know, is battling cancer right now, and he's got his job is his job. When he's ready to, every time he can work, it's his job, but I've got to work around that sometimes. So a lot of fans will get to see that. I will be in Memphis next Tuesday. They play at Memphis in the exhibition game. So we're going to get a much better feel for this team long before they play Elon than we would have in past years because there's no secret scrimmage. That's now a public thing for St. Jude's, and it's a charity game. It's a great opportunity for the Tar Heels to have a great road atmosphere they play in. To get them ready for the season because they got one at Fog Allen Fieldhouse, game number 2. In fact, that game was 4 weeks from Friday, so they got to get ready for something like that. Based on what I saw the other day, based on conversations I've had, and based on the conversations I had with players in Hubert's press conference, I think there's a lot to like about what this team is. And the stuff about no 7-footer, people need to jump off that, man.
Yeah, I'm tired of that conversation.
I think there are times that might show up, but if you look at 5 of the last 10 national champions, Carolina's bigger than those teams.
Yeah.
Now, Virginia started at Jack Salt, who's bigger than anybody on Carolina's roster, but Jack Salt was a screen setter. Jalen Washington is 6'10". Now, Hubert said 6'11" in the press conference, and I asked Jalen, I was standing. He had finished doing TV, and I was standing, tried to grab him before it ended. And so he's kind of up there. And I said, Hubert said in the press, you're 6'11". And he started laughing. So I'm 6'10". I'm not 6'11", I'm 6'10". I said, you're right at 6'10", right? He was right at 6'10". He also has 7'4" wingspan. Mm-hmm. Rasheed Wallace was 6'10" with a 7'4" wingspan. I'm not saying he's Rasheed Wallace as a player. I'm just trying to give people an understanding that you don't have to be massive. Sean May was 6'9", maybe 6'10". Mm-hmm. Didn't have great hops. Tyler Hansbrough was 6'10", 6'9". Deion Thompson was 6'9" on that team. Now, Zeller and Ed Davis played some off the bench, but not a ton, and they were bigger, but that wasn't a huge team. The 19 team was number one seed, and they had Garrison Brooks in the middle. The team the year before was number 2 seed, and they had Luke May in the middle. Mm-hmm. As a stretch 5. So you don't have to. Now, I know those 2 teams got eliminated, getting clobbered on the boards. The 19 team was sick. I know that for a fact because I was in that locker room after the game, and I could hear some guys throwing up for a while. So I know that team was very, very sick. So you don't have to be massive to win a national championship these days. This team is much bigger than Baylor was a couple of years ago. Baylor had 4 guys at 6'5" and shorter in the starting lineup. Didn't bring a ton of height off the bench. That Matthew Mayer kid that flirted with Carolina a little bit was 6'8", and he was a wing player. Mm-hmm. They had the name I can't pronounce, the long name, Tshumbo. He was 6'10", but he wasn't an offensive threat. What Carolina has in the middle, and I think right now I would project Jalen Washington to start in the middle because when you talk around the program, he's doing very well, and they need that kind of guy there. He could step out, and he was 8 for 15 from 3 last year. Mm-hmm. And he's very comfortable shooting it. He can shoot the mid-range. There's a lot of different things that he can do on the floor that we get to see maybe Hubert's ultimate vision of what offense at this level should look like. Perhaps we didn't see that in the first 3 years because of the Armando factor. Armando's not going to float around. He's not going to backdoor the crap out of you. He's not going to pick and roll the crap out of you. Jalen Washington could do those things. Jalen Withers can do those things. Jalen Washington's got better hands, so he's going to do it more. Then Allen Lubin can do all those things. Of the guys that I saw in practice, the one that surprised me the most was how sleek and quick and economical and gliding Van Allen Lubin was. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't sure. I saw a ton of film at Vanderbilt. They ran a lot of sets. So you didn't see a ton of running. I saw a guy that's very comfortable getting up and down the floor. And so you got him as a big that can do that. You've got Jay Wash, absolutely can do that. Hubert says fastest big, baseline to baseline. And you've got Jalen Withers, who's extremely athletic. Still needs a little refinement. I think some of that's been taking place in the offseason. So you got 3 big guys that can get up and down the floor. And when people say, well, God, how are they going to handle Hunter Dickinson? Well, how's Hunter Dickinson going to handle chasing them around?
Good point.
So it goes both ways. I love the composition of this team. I love it in the sense that I think they are going to be really fun to watch. They're going to do things that haven't been seen in Chapel Hill in a while. I believe Hubert's mandate, being the fastest team in the country, is something that this team can achieve. It can certainly be as fast and as athletic a Carolina team as I've ever covered. And my first year doing this stuff was when it was 96, 97. It was when Antoine Jamison and Vince Carter were sophomores. My first Carolina player I ever interviewed, ever asked a question to, was Vince Carter in the locker room at VMI. They beat VMI on a Sunday afternoon in December 1996, and I asked Vince Carter a question. That was the first one. So I go back that far, and that was obviously an extremely athletic team, but they didn't play a ton of guys. This team's going to go 9 deep for sure. Mm-hmm. And then you got Ty Claude, who moves pretty well, another big, pretty effective at times with Georgia Tech last year. So there's a lot to like. There's a drill, by the way. It's not even a drill. It's a mandate. When they play 5v5, the team that has the ball, if they don't get it up past midcourt in 3 seconds, it's a turnover.
Oh, wow.
It's a turnover. Mm-hmm. So that's something that Hubert and some of the players said, yeah, it was a struggle for a while, but we're getting used to it. It's getting there.
Oh, yeah.
It's getting there. It's getting to the point, RJ said, where they don't really think about that much. It just happens. So the drills that you have on the video you shot, and I have some shorter videos I shot with my phone. They're raw, but they're still pretty good, and you get some insight on yourself. You see how fast they're getting up and down the court. That's as fast as any Carolina drills I've ever seen, and that's what they want. So if you're not the biggest team in the country, you could get easy baskets in transition. You can get some easy baskets forced by defense, and suddenly your efficiency rate goes up and you're scoring enough that if you do have a little bit of a shortcoming in the post, and I'm not sure if they do or not, then you're making up for it a little bit there. If you don't have a shortcoming in the post, suddenly you have a chance of being damn good. And I think this team has a chance to be really good. I'm not sure about damn good. I got to see them against other people and got to see them on the road and get into some competitive situations. But there is a lot to like about the group we saw Hubert roll out on the floor last Friday.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think biggest takeaway for me was what you just talked about, speed and the way in which Carolina wants to play fast. I mean, Hubert talked about it in his press conference before we got to talk to the players and see the practice at the end. And it was extremely evident. And that was my biggest takeaway. I'm also looking at it from a different perspective too, because I'm running around with the camera for that 20 minutes trying to get videos and get angles and get all this. So I'm not able to soak it in as much as I would like. But that was the biggest thing, because the drill you'll see in one of the videos too of Carolina basically having to get I think it's one guy on each side having to get fast break layups and get a certain amount before the clock runs out. Very high energy in that. Hubert constantly yelling, constantly talking in that drill, constantly pushing the speed of you guys can go faster. You guys can do it.
I have an ISO video of Hubert people should watch.
Yeah, it's a great video where you get that insight. You can hear him in mine, but I'm not as nearly as close as you were. But that was my thing. And because I think that's interesting too, because we've seen Hubert's team speed up, but AJ, it wasn't too long ago we were having these conversations about Carolina plays too slow, too many sets, too much.
He would stop fast breaks.
I know. And now it's
we saw it.
Exact opposite.
What players told us.
I know. It's exact
There's
opposite.
a guy on the team still that told me two things a couple of years ago. A, everybody knows our set plays. B, we were slowed in fast breaks sometimes. He's still on the team. He won a big award last year.
Yeah, wink, wink.
And so I think what you're saying is this looks a lot different. That shouldn't happen based on what we're seeing, what we're hearing. All that stuff is in the past.
Yeah, it is more reminiscent of what Roy used to preach all the time, when it was speed and let's play fast and we're going to run teams out of the gym. And you got to be. Even Hubert made a comment in his press conference of, I forgot exactly what he said, but kind of saying, expecting the players here, if you're not in your best shape of your life, you ain't gonna play for this team. You're not gonna be able to handle it. And I think we saw that in the short glimpse of the 20 minutes, because it was full speed ahead, AJ. Everything they did was fast. And that was only the first 20 minutes of practice, and they were stretching for about 5 or 10 minutes of that. So speed is the number one thing that I took away. And I think, again, we talk about Carolina basketball is its own entity. It is a program. It is a living and breathing thing. It is something that you have to understand the history of to understand the present of. And the history of Carolina basketball, when I think when a lot of, especially under Roy, when a lot of modern fans that are here now ask, what do you point out about Carolina basketball? When I ask you about it, what do you think? Playing fast, playing with speed, getting up and down the court is what I think a lot of people's brains go to. And you're going to see that with that team this year. And AJ, I think it fits this team too. I don't think this is just Hubert saying, I want to play fast. I don't have the personnel really to do it, but we're going to play fast because that's what I want to establish here. No, this team, when you look at it and when you look at the pieces that it has, playing fast makes the most sense out of any of it. So I think that is the thing that a lot of Carolina fans are going to be more excited about with this team based on what we've seen in this small sample size. But again, I also think it's the thing that makes all the sense in the world to play when you look at the makeup of the roster.
Yeah, I would say any other approach with the composition of this roster would be coaching and malpractice. Mm-hmm. But I also think this is what Hubert wants.
Yes.
So David Sisk has talked a lot about, hey, we're not really going to 100% know what Hubert's vision is until Armando leaves. And Armando's gone now. So we're going to see that. And I can envision in my head, and I have, when I go get my steps and stuff, and I can't escape work, so I'll send myself emails about football, and then I'll send myself emails about basketball. And the other day when I was getting my steps, I just kept thinking about the rip and run aspect of this team. One of the things that Dean's teams and Roy's teams more than any other, they were so fast at it. Their team would score and they would turn that into a fast break.
Oh, I know.
This team is going to rip and run. They're going to pull it out of the net, step out of bounds, inbound, and race up the court. You're going to see big men take it off. You're going to get those fast breaks after made buckets, and those are so demoralizing to the opponent. I have seen body language on really good teams change for a couple of minutes when Carolina's done that. I've seen it in person. And I think this group, especially when you have a big like Washington that can run baseline to baseline like he can, and you have a point guard like Cadeau who can see the floor and who takes tremendous pride in getting guys the ball. And then you've got a three trailing, two of them, and Tyson and Davis that must be recognized. And you've got other finishers out there. If you're ripping and running, you've got Washington and Withers as your guys in transition, or Lubin and Washington, or Lubin and Withers. You've got big men who can fill the lane, get the ball, go up and be decisive and score. Mm-hmm. So they should be really good at that stuff. Now, how are they half court? How are they half court defensively? Especially with a team that runs a lot of sets, that's going to be interesting to see. And I think that that's an area that I'm going to wait for a while to judge, because I want to see how they change. Let's say they have a tough time with Hunter Dickinson. Let's say they go in Maui, and there's some really good teams in Maui, and they have a tough time with a big there. And we're looking at this group and saying, okay, they're not great guarding the post up. They're not really good in the lower block. They're not pushing guys out. What kind of, in Hubert's words, tweaks, pivots, and alters will he make so they improve in those areas? It is a long season. It will take time before we really see what this group is defensively in the half court. But in all other areas, I think that they have got a lot of trimmings, man. This has a chance to be not just a super fun team, but this has a chance to be a team that wins a ton of basketball games.
Agreed. And I guess in a team we're going to learn a lot about early in the season too. You mentioned that game at Kansas. A lot of other early season matchups are going to be tough for Carolina. Trip to Maui. We're going to really learn about this team early on and see kind of what they're made of. But again, I do agree with you. I think there's a lot of pieces to like with this Carolina basketball team, and no reason to believe they can't have
and the depth.
Yeah, depth everywhere, man. Everywhere.
Let me throw this at you. Okay, starting line. Let's say this is a starting lineup: Elliot Cadeau, R.J. Davis, Cade Tyson, Van Allen Lubin, Jalen Washington. All right, pretty good starting five. Now, who in America comes off the bench with this? Seth Trimble.
Yeah.
Jalen Withers. Ian Jackson. Drake Powell.
All four of those guys started a lot.
Is Ty Plott. It was was rated one of the best offensive rebounders in college basketball last year. Who comes off the bench with that anywhere in America?
Not many people, man. All five of those guys started, particularly the first four you named, started I would say most school, not every school in the league, because you got some Dukes and stuff like that, but a lot of those guys started most of the schools in the league and most of the teams across the country. Do
you remember when Georgia Tech beat Carolina right before the Duke game last year? It was Carolina's first ACC loss.
Yeah.
Well, Tech's big man, the freshman, got hurt early in that game. Claude ended up playing like 29 minutes and played well. I think he went 9 points, 8 rebounds, played some good. Tech won the game.
Mm-hmm. I know.
That could be your 10th man.
It's wild, man. That's a lot of experience, a lot of depth and experience too.
And I think this is going to be an evolving thing too, because some guys are going to get better. You may look at a situation where Ian Jackson is not getting a ton of playing time early. He's sort of figuring things out. And by the time February comes, they go to Durham and he gets 25 minutes. Like, I really think this is going to be an evolving thing. It's also going to be a deal where some guys are just going to be on one night because of matchups. You're going to use a lot more Withers in this game than you will maybe another game. You might use a lot more Trimble in this game than another game because foul trouble matchups, a turned ankle, whatever the case may be. They have a lot of answers. Again, they don't have the 7-footer, but how many Carolina National Championship teams had 7-footers in the middle? Very quickly, how many?
7-footers? Ooh. 93. I mean, Montross is 7 feet.
The number's right here.
I was about to say it's 1, isn't it?
93.
Yeah.
They started 2 of them.
Yeah.
Well, Salvador played a ton, 7-footer. Some of the Dean teams did, but Sam Perkins was 6'9".
I don't think Hubert necessarily, I'm not going to say wants a 7-footer. But based on what we've seen and based on, I think, like David said, we're not really going to know, I think, what Hubert Davis really wants until Armando leaves. I've always thought and been of the mindset that I don't necessarily believe that Hubert Davis maybe cares if he has a 7-foot. I don't really think he feels the need to have, maybe like someone like Roy.
And this came up in the press conference. Art Chansky asked about it. You were in there. You saw how uncomfortable that exchange was, in a sense. He was asked about it. They did talk to 7-footers, but one of the big misnomers is that Carolina whiffed on a lot of 7-footers in the spring, and they didn't. As Hubert said, 3 kids came for a visit. They got 2 of them. And I'm not going to go down this path. I don't want people to focus on just this, but understand that there are certain criteria that are absolutes for Hubert Davis in order to play for him. And maybe that means that the pond he fishes in is not as deep as a pond some other coaches fish in. That's okay, because he's got something to sell those other coaches don't have to sell. So he can afford to fish in a more shallow pond than some other coaches. And because of that, when they had conversations with some kids in the portal, and I'm not saying this was the case with all of them, but if you come back and your handler is related to you and the hands out right away, those conversations, you're still going to have one because you want to know what the deal is. Yes. But that doesn't mean that just because you had that conversation that you wanted that person. Yes. Because there was no offer extended. There might be some other kids that you're interested in. When you watch them on film, I could see that guy playing for us. And then you talk to him, you're like, he wants more of a role than we can give. And there were a couple of guys that wanted guaranteed roles that Hubert could not guarantee. So he's not going to bring him in because you don't want to mess up chemistry. One bad dude on a football team cannot mess up chemistry unless he's the starting quarterback. In basketball, one bad dude who gets on the court can destroy chemistry. And Hubert is about chemistry. And Hubert's about guys that want to be there. And he was about having guys there that he wants to coach. Yes. And that's his way. I don't think that's going to change. And so far, I think the results are okay. I mean, he went to a title game and he was the number 1 seed in 2 of his 3 years. Then he had a year where maybe that wasn't the most coachable situation. And he made some mistakes that year and he learned. So for people to complain about not having a 7-footer, it's great to have a 7-footer, but if they're not what you need, and if it doesn't fit what you want to do, even at 7 feet, and you end up going with a 6'11" guy and a 6'9" guy, so be it. Yeah. Miami got to the Final Four with a 6'7" center a couple of years ago. It's you're 100%. You hit the nail on the head right there. It's a lot more than just go out and get somebody. We just need a 7-footer. I don't really care if he wants to be here or not. Like, whatever. That's not how Hubert goes about it. And that's quite frankly, that's not how anybody is the head coach of the University of North Carolina's basketball program should go about it. You shouldn't be, like, oh, well, I'll come here, but you gotta pay me first. I don't think you have to have those kind of kids or want those kind of kids in a program like this. I think it kind of speaks for itself, and that North Carolina written off across your jersey, NIL era or not, I think is more of an incentive and should be the main incentive to play here than cash money like a lot of these other programs. If you're good, you're going to make money. Yeah. Because you're going to make NIL money on this stage. Armando is set for life. I know. He is, because he's so damn smart. He's so smart anyway. And he's so savvy. He is set for life financially. I know. Not because Carolina gave him a big NIL deal, because of all the money he earned. Yeah. RJ is on the verge of being set for life if he's smart with his money. And every indication I have is he's very smart with his money. He probably should hire Armando as his financial consultant. He probably should, man, to be honest. I'm telling you guys, Armando is so smart. Yeah, he is, man. He really is. He checks so many boxes. And he probably might make the Grizzlies. I know. I'm rooting for him, man. I hope he does. He'll probably be there if they're around. Maybe he'll be there next Tuesday. Yeah, he wouldn't surprise me. That's a good point. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But Did you cut his hair? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did see that. Mm-hmm. Switching it up, man. He's switching it up a little bit, man. He's onto the NBA, onto bigger things now. But no, I agree. If you want to make a lot of money, come be a good basketball player in North Carolina. The money will find you. Trust me on that. It will find you.
Yes, it's
That's a great line, Jacob.
Yeah,
I'm going to quote you on that. It will find you.
It will 100% find you. AJ, last thing, just a quick preview of Media Day. Not Media Day. We had Media Day last Friday. I call it Media Day. ACC Tip-Off, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. ACC Media Day. Tomorrow in Charlotte. I think you said Carolina's main press conference starting around 9:45 in the morning.
9:45, the main presser, breakout room at 10:30 for like a half hour or whatever. We got 900 teams, so cramming them all in.
Yeah, they really are.
Seth Trimble and RJ are there along with Hubert. So I'll talk to all three of them, and we'll see what comes out of their mouths. There are a few things that I know I want to ask about because stories I plan on writing.
Yeah,
but I don't mind sometimes being around media that's outside of covering North Carolina, because just to kind of see the questions they ask. And I don't think the questions tomorrow are going to be highly predictable. Sometimes they're very predictable, and it's really annoying. Sometimes.
Yeah, no, it is.
Especially when you have some people in there that you want to know, what flavor gum you chew on game day and stuff like that. My skin crawls when I hear that stuff. But people like it, so it's okay. There might be some interesting stuff. And and by the way, side note, I'm so glad Seth Trimble's back.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he I talked to him last week about, we were asking him questions about the portal. He was in the portal for like a week.
Yeah, about 7 billion questions about it.
Yeah, and he went down to Florida and thought about it and stuff. And I told him, I said, Seth, you were the guy that was most visibly upset in the locker room in Los Angeles. Like when I talked to him, and you can go back and look at the video on our YouTube channel, he's in tears when I'm talking to him the whole time. After they lost NC State in the ACC championship game, I was walking right behind the team back to the press room because he had to go by the locker room to get to the press room. And I didn't want to walk fast because I don't want to pass anybody. They're walking slow, like, and I like to go and, I'm not Ariel Bonham. He's a damn road runner.
Oh, he's gone.
I like to go fast because he got work to do, right? Seth is at the back and he just keeps wiping his eyes. He was crying after losing that game.
Of course, yeah.
And I was like, you show so much care for the school. How hard was it? He said it was terribly hard. And sometimes you take a step out to realize how much you really want what you had. And fortunately for him and for Carolina, that he had the opportunity to stay there. A lot of coaches, for example, like Arkansas football coaches, when a guy hits the portal, they cut him off. I know that for a fact. Carolina fans should know what I'm talking about there. But at North Carolina, they didn't do that with Seth. Mm-hmm. And Hubert's like, I didn't want him in the portal. I want him back. I love Coach Seth, and I'm glad he's back. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. Good plug on that too, because I was standing near him for a lot of those interviews last Friday, and he got a lot of questions about it. I think he handled it really well, and I think he's very honest about it. Never wanted to leave. Really didn't. Just, you can understand the situation too. You talk about him. Yeah, I mean, you talk about him coming off the bench too. I mean, he starts most everywhere else. I mean, he's that good. He's a really good player, super athletic, does a great, best defensive player on the team. And he's absolutely fantastic. But having him back, I mean, you talk about with him entering the portal, AJ, you can sit there, consider him a portal. You landed him in the portal if you want to look at it. He's a massive plus to have back on this team. Massive plus to have back on this team. Can't stress that enough. I mean, that was huge.
He's really, for this year and then for next year.
Yeah, I know, man. I mean, you just talk about a guy that he's so, I mean, I always go back to that Michigan State game in the NCAA tournament last year. I was right behind the basket, went on I think it was on a fast break. He came back, he blocked the ball or something. I don't remember the play specifically. I need to go watch him, but I just remember watching that and being like, I don't know if there are very, very, very few other players in the country that can even have the ability athletically to do something like that. And he does that. And he's, again, more than likely going to be coming off the bench for North Carolina. So I think that tells you all I need to know about the depth on this team. But I think that's a good place to wrap this up. I don't think we need to spend an hour talking about the team. We'll dive into them as the season starts, and obviously with Carolina having the exhibition against Memphis coming up soon as well, we'll obviously have a lot more to talk about after that, and obviously you'll be there as well too. So I think it's a good place to leave it. Make sure you leave it. Make sure you keep it locked to TarIllustrated.com for all your coverage from tomorrow's ACC tip-off again tomorrow morning in Charlotte. Carolina's press conference starting around 9:45. AJ will have all the breakout interviews as well from that. So I'm sure we'll get some interesting stuff from the ACC tip-off in Charlotte. But I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones, another edition of the UNC Basketball Show. Make sure you like the video below. Make sure you share it as well. Head on over to TarIllustrated.com. $8.33 a month to subscribe. Great time to do so. And I always say that, but it really is, because the overlap's officially here. You're getting a ton out of it. Oh, and recruiting just never stops. So if you want to be a little
by the way, it's free this week. Our board, our premium board is not free. There's no way to make that free, but all of our content through the Georgia Tech game coverage is free this week.
Free 99, guys. Free 99. No price at all. You can access all that. So head on over. Links in the description below. We appreciate y'all watching. Go ahead and like the video below if you're excited about this Carolina basketball season coming up. And yeah, guys, we'll see y'all next time. Thanks.
Thanks.